This is Jesus Manuel Mena Garza. I hope you're having a fantastic day. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the migration of Californians to Texas and implications and why individuals are migrating from California and other states to Texas, especially from the West Coast. Of course, my parents are from Texas, and they migrated in the 40s to California for better jobs, for less racism and opportunities, okay? And a lot of my neighbors that I grew up with in my working class, middle class neighborhood in Silicon Valley were from Texas and also from Oklahoma and those cities, okay? A lot of migrants from those communities, again, back in the 40s, back in the 30s, moved to escape racism, for economic opportunities, for jobs. They moved where? They moved to California. So I wanted to make this video very succinct and very to the point. I'm going to move over here a little bit so you can see some of my graphics that I'm going to put right here. This is the price of a middle-class home in Silicon Valley. Okay, this is the price right here. It's pretty expensive, as you can very well say. My parents' home, they bought their home back in the 40s for about, I think it was about $6,000, okay? It's now worth almost $1 million, okay? And they live in a working class, almost middle class neighborhood, okay? A middle class home, what would be considered a middle class home, a 2,000-3,000 square foot home in a nice area where everything's nice and clean, those go for $1.5 million, $2 million, okay? So it's relatively expensive to live in Silicon Valley. We're not talking about San Francisco. We're not talking about San Diego, certain nicer neighborhoods. You can still buy an inexpensive home for like about $500,000, $400,000 in like Riverside, Fresno, and other communities like Sacramento and such like that. You're not talking about coastal communities, okay? So this is the price of a home in Fort Worth, Texas. It's relatively inexpensive. And if, you got a good job here in Fort Worth, you can afford this house. You can afford to make the payments. All you have to do is put 10, 20% down, and you can have this nice home in Fort Worth, Texas. Fort Worth is a rather, generic little town. It's not as nice as San Francisco and San Jose. It's a nice town. You go 50 miles that way, it's ranches. You go 50 miles that way, it's ranches. 50 miles that way, and ranches. It's you get what you pay for. Okay. In Silicon Valley, of course, you go 50 miles that way, you got the beaches. You go 50 miles that way, you got San Francisco. You go 50 miles that way, and you got some nice mountains. Okay. It's a nicer weather too. It has nicer weather too. So you get, again, what you pay for. In real estate, there's a term, location, 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 okay? There is a reason why a home in Fort Worth is priced typically a third less than in San Jose, okay? Okay, a comparable home, even a quarter less, okay? There's other reasons why people are moving from California to Texas, okay? If you're a relatively poor as compared to a lot of other people in the community, working class individual, you're not making a lot of money, you're not a doctor, a lawyer, have been in that community for a long time and have roots in that community and can afford an already inherited property, and you live in that community. It's pretty expensive to move to Silicon Valley, move to San Francisco, move to Los Angeles, and move to San Diego. It's expensive, okay? You can't afford it. You're essentially going to be a renter. You're going to be paying $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, which is not unusual for rent. Usually, typically $2,000 or $3,000. So you can gather all your cash, move to Texas, and with that same $300,000 that you want to buy a house, you can afford to buy a house, $300,000-$400,000. You can buy a home in Texas. You can buy in a working class neighborhood a home in Fort Worth for $150,000, easy, okay? And you can buy in some of the more white neighborhoods like McKinney and those types of neighborhoods. You can buy a house down there for $300,000, $400,000. $1,000. You know, you can move to McKinney. You can move to all those Frisco and those nicer communities around the Fort Worth area, into certain neighborhoods in Fort Worth and Dallas and Arlington. And you can have a nice home if you got a nice job, okay? In California, if you got a nice job, you don't necessarily can afford a nice home, okay? So that's the situation in California. That's why a lot of people are saying, I want a home. I want to raise my children. I want them all to have, you know, a nice bedroom. I want to go to a nice school district. I'll give up the nice weather. I'll give up access to the beach and the mountains and the cultural amenities of living in California and move to Texas, okay? And that's the harsh reality. A lot of people are moving to Texas for the opportunity to have, you know, a single family home and to be able to live the American dream. So that's my opinion. What do you think? Do you think those are valid reasons for people to move from California to Texas? I'm personally in the process of saving up my money to move back to California because I like Texas, but I prefer California, okay? I can live in Chico, Arcata, some of those other smaller communities, Fresno, and it's relatively affordable. I can't move back to LA, San Diego, San Jose, San Francisco. Definitely not Mill Valley or some of the nicer neighborhoods, Atherton, for example. Should I move to Beverly Hills? No, I can't move to Beverly Hills. Okay. So this has been Jesus Manuel Garza giving my opinion and my analysis of the situation. Can you afford this house? Can you afford this house? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. And if you have the time, please leave your kind and super, super duper friendly comments below the description. Thank you very much. From Fort Worth, Texas, in my modest little home that's incredibly inexpensive. Hope you're doing well. Hope you have cash in your pocket. Thanks for watching. Gracias.